Okay, we are going to do an empowerment exercise to start, and we're doing the state to activity again because that really seems to work. In the left hand, we're gonna put in the feeling you have when you're super confident and enjoy what you're doing. So something that you absolutely love to do and you feel great when you do it and you can't wait to go back doing it. And that's what I want you to feel, this big ball of light in your hand. And just feel great and super confident and fun. And in the right hand, put in today's meeting. Whatever I'm doing in this meeting today, this is what I'm going to do. Today's meeting, I'm gonna have a lot of fun. I am super confident and I can't wait to have fun. Go back to the right hand and you go back and forth between them. This meeting today will be a lot of fun and I'm super confident in whatever I'm doing in this meeting, and I'm having fun today in this meeting. And you slowly, you just get them closer and closer together, press them together, and you feel that energy of confidence and excitement and fun. Rub your hands together and then breathe it into your body. And you feel that energy in every single cell in your body, down in your toes, in your ears, in your nose, everywhere. So now let's go have fun. First, I want to celebrate our two winners. Both Peter Field and Kevin Cunningham won last week's contest and they did amazing. Let's give them a big hand. Both are moving on to the district. I believe next Saturday. Jim might know what time it is, and the link for that, we should post it. I think it's amazing. Peter won in the inspirational international competition and Kevin in the evaluation competition, and this group rocks. Now I'm going to do a little VPE moment. It's pretty short. I'm going to talk a little bit about pathways. Some of our members may not have picked a path yet. It may be intimidating, take too much time, or the website is confusing to start with. So please contact me if you need help. Text, DM, Facebook, email, smoke signals, whatever you can, but I will help you. Other members may write a speech and then adjust it to the lesson. Please don't start with writing the speech. Start with learning from the pathway lesson and then write the speech, because there's a lot of brilliant information in there. Also, you don't become a great speaker by just completing the path. You become a great speaker by mastering and applying the skills you learn in the path. Food for thought. There are 5 levels, as you know. Level 1 focuses on the foundational skills. Level 2 helps you with communication and leadership styles. Level 3 has a lot of wonderful electives. I love this, my favorite level. Descriptive language, body language, vocal variety, and a lot of other ones, but they help you become greater. Level 4 continues with those skills, but it's focused more on real world situations. Level 5 pulls it together through larger projects. When you finish a level, please let me know. I used to get emails every time, but sometimes lately I have not. So let me know so I can go and check that off for you. That was my VPE moment. And now I'm going to hand it over to our amazing Toastmaster of today. Please welcome fabulous Peter Field.
Well, thank you, Madam Presiding Officer and fellow SuccessMasters. Good morning. And welcome to all of our would-be guests. I guess we don't have any this morning, but welcome anyway. My name is Peter Field, and as you've just learned, I'm your Toastmaster for today. And my primary function is to keep the meeting running smoothly, in addition to being hopelessly charming and wildly entertaining. Which brings me to the theme for today's meeting: breakthroughs. Does anyone here not want to have a breakthrough? Good. Sometimes a breakthrough and a breakdown are two sides of the same coin. But the key to walking through the wall is you have to see it not as a wall, even though everyone else may still see it that way. To paraphrase Portland author Ursula K. Le Guin, to break through, be like a child running out into the sunlight. Which is a bit odd, because as we say here in the Pacific Northwest, the sun is shining somewhere, just not here. But no matter. Let's run into the sunlight this morning and every morning. And first, we're going to meet our talented, witty, astonishing, and gifted TWAG team, starting with our talented timer today, Mr. Andrew Kelm.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. It's my job today to help you judge the timing of your speeches. And I am going to put my hand up, first of all, so that you can always see my screen. And I will end up in the top left corner of your screen. The timing of all the speeches today, I believe, are 5 to 7 minutes, the regular speeches. So at 5 minutes, you will see a green background. At 6 minutes, a yellow background. And at 7 minutes, a red background, which means you are to wrap up within about 30 seconds if you can. Our table topics are also timed for 2 minutes each. You will get a green background at 1 minute, at 1.5 minutes, a yellow background, and at 2 minutes, red. And evaluations are timed at 3 minutes. You will get a green background at 2 minutes, a yellow background at 2.5, and a red background at 3. Thank you, and back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And next, let's hear from our wise wow counter. Today, that part is being played by Mr. Eugene Mandelkorn. Eugene, good morning.
Hi. What I will be doing today is looking for something astounding that someone has to say. Something that makes you think and takes you out of just the moment. And I think a good example of that is just what Peter said about don't see a wall, and have breakthroughs and breakdowns and breakthroughs are related. I thought those were really a wow factor that made me think. And so those are the kind of things that I'll be looking for. Something that you say, it could be a phrase, a description, a story, anything that wow and brings attention to what you have to say.
Great, thank you very much, Eugene. Next, we shall meet our astonishing awe counter, the marvelous Sandra Nellis. Sandra, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As the awe counter, I will be listening for ahs, ums, ers, so's, but, and any other necessary filler words, like you know. I will also be keeping track of this and give a report at the end. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sandra. And finally, our glamorous grammarian, the effervescent Lena Poussette. Lena, please tell us what you'll be doing as grammarian and give us the word for the day.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I am the grammarian today. I will be watching for your good or poor use of the English language, including grammatical errors, especially colorful and effective use of words and phrases. And I'm providing the word of the today, which is success. Now, it's a very, very easy word. I know that. And I did that on purpose because I want to make sure that every single member will use that word today successfully. So I challenge everyone to use the word of today, success, and then I will give a report at the end of the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Madam Grammarian. And thank you to all of our functionaries. Now, in a few minutes, we're going to meet our table topics master and our 5-star general evaluator. But first, we have 2 prepared speeches this morning. Our first speaker, Judith von Prague, is a bilingual author and reporter. Her background in multicultural theater in Europe as a designer and actors coach provides a fertile and versatile basis for her screenwriting. Incorporating some of the feedback received for speech 1, she's presenting Taking Note Part 2, Evaluating Influencers. Please help me welcome Judith von Prague.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. A month ago, the Oscars coincided with the anniversary of my father's death 53 years earlier. I can say hands down that my dad, wherever he may be, was the #1 influencer in my life, my mentor. We only had 13 years together, and those were chock full with experiences in real life and also via the big screen. My father and I watched many movies. After the 8 o'clock news, when my mother went to bed because she had to get up early for the hobby farm animals, milk the goats, feed the chickens, etc., my dad would come into my room, wake me up if I was asleep, which I most of the time wasn't, because I knew there was a film coming that night that we were going to watch together. And he would wake me up, take me to our special spot in front of the television, have snacks ready, and then we watch. I still remember his favorite actor, Fernandel, the actor known for his horse teeth. He played such amazing roles about war, about life, about love. I saw many age-inappropriate movies with my father. Some things he explained and others he left untouched. I would find out later as I grew up what they meant. My father pointed out things in movies. I got a sense of story from him, storytelling, because he was a great storyteller himself. He basically taught me to take note. That's when my note-taking started. Scribble, scribble, scribble. And these days, thumb, thumb, thumb on my iPhone. Watching the Oscars, I took note. Especially when Kevin Costner came to the stage. Hand in pocket, and oh my, me, the costume designer, thought, take that hand out. And then I thought, oh no, look, he commands the stage. In his right hand, the coveted envelope, or rather the envelope with the coveted names, the coveted prize-winning names. He made us feel welcome in those millions of rooms around the world, people who always watch movies like I did with my father. And he opened with a joke. He said just a few miles away, he had watched his first adult movie 60 years earlier. And everybody laughed. And then he said, it was a cowboy movie, Once Upon a Time in the West. And there were people in the audience who knew exactly what he meant because they were part of that. And most all of us knew what he meant by Once Upon a Time in the West. He took me back to when he was 7 years old. I was maybe 9, 10, older when I sat next to my father, and I was transported to that time. 2 influencers in one, my old dad and Kevin Costner. He took me back to when he was in the movie theater. And he wouldn't leave his seat during the intermission when the score continued because he didn't want to lose that magic moment, that feeling of transportation that happens when you are drawn into a movie. He then talked about the 3 directors who signed for the movie and the 5 directors who were nominated in 2022. You don't do it alone, making a movie. You work with a team. And I was thinking of us, screenwriters. Directors were first in his talk, but I thought of all of you, of us and others who put the words on paper, who take note of what they see happening around them, things that they want others, all of us, to know about. Yeah. Kevin Costner is a master in the understatement. It's uncanny how he brings in everybody. Successful with his movies, except for perhaps some of those Westerns up north, near the Canadian border. Postman, I loved, but it didn't do so well. Who cares? There may be something he could challenge himself with, and that would be to take a role where he can smear, make grand gestures the way we learn here at Toastmasters. Because he can afford that. He has already proven that he can. He can really bring a story to life and bring us in. This speech, it's in memory of my father, and it's in honor of filmmakers, not just directors, screenwriters who pick things from life, from their own life, from other people's lives, the grand stories that envelop us all. This is to us going to bring those stories to become influencers who may change the world in small or big ways. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Judith. I loved your homage to your early film memory and your connection to your father, and it made me think of a less reverent moment, excuse me, and during the first film that I recall seeing, which I believe was The Son of Flubber, I think early 60s, with Fred McMurray. And it's all very comical now, but I spent most of the movie running up and down the aisle of the movie theater to my mother's dismay. I think it was probably the last time she ever took me to the movies. Anyway, and scarred me for life, of course. So, but I mean, the movie, it's like, obviously we're all hugely influenced by movies and filmmakers. Our next speaker this morning is Renee Brown. Renee tells me in her introduction, when you've lost yourself, then found yourself, there's only one thing to do: make art. I agree with that. Renee's speech this morning is Deep Dives. Please help me welcome Renee Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Friends, last time we were together, it was here where my heart cracked open and my authentic humanity began to emerge. After such a radical and tender awakening, what's a girl to do? My answer? Make art. My purpose? Bring joy and wonder to millions through my creativity. I was 28, a senior designer at a top 100 design firm, a society-bound wife, a big house, a big car, a blindingly bright super highway, a future that was about to dive onto the off-ramp and ramble on winding roads for the next 2 decades. I've always loved working in clay, and I rediscovered this passion during this time. At a weekend ceramics workshop, I met Elmer Taylor, the head of ceramics at UNT, one of the heavies in the field. During a break, he was talking about a couple of grad students he was going to give a bus ticket home because they didn't have the chops for the program. I said, I'll come study with you. He said, I dare ya. I put my hand out. He shook it. I said, I'll see you in the fall. I divorced. Don't feel bad for my husband. He was currently having an affair with my best friend. I resigned from the big design firm. I found my spiritual path, but that's another story for another day. I showed up in the fall at the University of North Texas, Denton. Elmer Taylor looked at me, took a beat, nodded, then marched over to the Dean of Administration's office and put his ass on the line. He told the dean he had accepted a new grad student on a handshake, and his word was his word. What's her portfolio like, they asked. I don't know. What kind of work does she make? I don't know. What's her clay background? Degree? None, he said. I have a feeling about this one. I'm not turning her away. For the next 3 years, I put my head down and I worked hard. Graduated with my MFA, scored a residency at the Harvard of Ceramic Arts Residency Programs, the Archie Bray Foundation in Helena, Montana. From there, for 3 years after that, I was a nomad bouncing around Montana as artist in residence until I fell in love with this place, Missoula. Then I met the man I would marry. I still live here. You see an example of my work here. It taps into the mystic aspects of nature. Using ground up minerals and clay mined from the earth, I created portraits of the earth's treasures through a lens of imagined form and a personal vernacular of beauty. I made and I made. I was named a National Emerging Artist. And by the way, that's why I initially joined Toastmasters. I wanted to ensure success during my presentation. I am so glad I did. This was the room where I accepted that award and gave a 12-minute speech on my work to 4,000 people. I had my first solo museum show, but every year I return to the desert. And as my new awareness of myself settled in, I began to connect the dots. Rebirth, earth, mystery, and wonder. I received a grant from the state of Montana to build a monumental sculpture at Burning Man. I was taking it home. I collected lumber from a demolished school here in town, and with it, I made this. This is chroma crystal. And while it looks pretty armored up and sharp from a distance, those who explored the interior of the sculpture would met with sounds, a soundscape. I worked with the sound engineer, Felix, on this. This is what you'd hear on the interior.
Where have you been? You are far away.
It was the chroma crystal oracle speaking to those who would go on the inside of this piece. And they were met with these triangulated speakers. So you couldn't hear anything from the outside, but when you go in, you'd get this mystic experience. I wanted people to walk into the piece and just freeze. I saw people do that. They'd come in and they'd stay. Sometimes they didn't move for minutes. My hope was just for a second, if they needed one, they could see a flash of an off-ramp to another life. And who knows where it would lead them. I brought the pieces of chroma crystal back with me, and during COVID, when there was no desert for me, I recycled the pieces into my own world in the same neighborhood that the school that I got the lumber from was in, where I live. I kept reshaping the piece as the seasons proceeded and I was alone with myself. And as the world got sharper, I took it down again and I cut off all the pointed edges and I put it up in a new way. As winter came, I rearranged again. There's a sweet pink couple of crystals intertwined, the larger holding the smaller as she leans out into the world. It's my husband and myself. I lit it up for Christmas, joy in the cold Montana night. And my winding roads merged here. For the last few years, I've been pulling back in the energy of myself. I feel like it's the great breath of my life, expanding and contracting like the seasons, like the tides. With each massive breath, my capacity grows. And now, right now I'm making these. These are dreamer stones. It's optical resin with my portraits encapsulated, a world of their own, inviting you to explore the wonder that might be within. These pieces are a visual snapshot of my writing, a mysterious curiosity of the superhighway of what is known, a winding road leading to a shared experience between us both, a world within a world. I feel like the time is nearing for another expansive breath in my creativity, and I'm not sure where it will lead, but I'm ready to step into that unknown with a full heart and a willing soul. We'll see what happens. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Wow, I'll say it and let Eugene count it, but incredible. I love the pictures that you give us in your backgrounds, and I'm so wish that we could get a better sound through the platform so that we could hear that. But so amazing, and thank you for that badass breakthrough story, getting into the MFA and taking chances and knocking walls down, walking through them. Awesome. And that concludes our prepared speeches portion of the meeting. Let's see where we're headed next. I think we're going to be going over to something completely different now. This is our chance. Each and every one of us have a chance now to step up and make a complete Saturday morning warrior of yourself with Table Topics, featuring Mary Ammon McNeath. Mary, take it away.
Yeah, Mr. Toastmaster, that was cool. Okay, well, again, I'm doing our Storymatic cards because I think they're fun. And what I'm going to do is present a setting for your characters to be in, and then I will pull a character card and an action card and create a concept in this setting that I propose. And I have a few different ones. So the first one is a dystopian setting. Let's see, our first character is a cook. And the action is a wig. That's different. A dystopian area with a cook and a wig. So who wants to try that one out? Oh, no takers. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna discard the wig and I'll pull a different action. Oh, here we go. A cook who has a problem at the bus station in a dystopian setting. A cook and a problem at the bus station. Okay, well, no takers, huh? I'm gonna call it, okay, Wayne.
I love a challenge, but it's a little bit easier if I unmute. Okay, well, I was a cook, and I was at this bus station in the United States in 2022, very dystopian place. And I was asked, it was a big bus stop, it was a bus terminal, and the cook had become sick, so they asked me to cook, and I went in there and started cooking and everything, and then I realized, oh, my wig, it had fallen off into the soup. And just then there's the chief of the station came in and he said, hey, I'm hungry, I don't get more than 5 minutes of a break here, give me some of that soup. And I just figured, well, okay, my wig is relatively clean, I'll just get him some soup. And I made him some soup in the, put it in a nice bowl and got it on the tray. And he looked in and he said, wait a minute, what is that? And I said, oh, wait, it's a new recipe. That's some seaweed. And I put it in there for some flavor. And it's just, that's what that is. And he said, oh, okay, well, that's fine. And he takes the soup and he eats that. And he comes back and he says, that was the best soup I've ever had. Would you like a job here? And I got the job, and I managed to fish my wig out of there later and found that a lot of it was dissolved. So it was a really cheap wig. And I went out and bought a dozen of them so I could make that soup again.
Okay.
You asked.
Very cool. Right on. Thank you, Wayne.
It was a dystopian society.
Oh, there you go.
That's the title.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. The next genre is science fiction. So there's a character of a teller of secrets, and the action is a shocking announcement. So in a sci-fi, a teller of secrets with a shocking announcement. Dun, dun, dun. Oh man, I'm stumping everybody. Nobody. Okay, I'm going to choose somebody. Okay, I'm gonna go like this. Okay, I'm going to go for Kevin.
In the land of Farkor, on a remote planet, in the cave of the Darkling, people are gathered. They have come to hear the speaker. Every month for the last 3 years, they've come to see the speaker, even as the world outside is filled with turmoil. But they've come to hear the speaker because he reveals the secrets. Today, they all gather around, they look at each other. The world is in disarray. They wonder what he's going to say. He steps forward. And just as he's about to speak, a young boy races in from outside. He says, wait, I have something to announce. But the speaker says, it's my time to speak. He said, that's what I have to announce. The emperor has declared that he is shutting down the speaker of secrets. And everyone looks around. How can he do that? The emperor can no longer have these secrets revealed. And the speaker starts to speak, and everyone is so excited or disturbed by this that they go up and they block at his mouth and they put him down onto the ground. And he says, you can't speak. The emperor said you can't speak. And he says, but I must speak. I have to speak. I know a secret about the emperor. And they say, no, that's not possible. And the boy says, the emperor has declared he must be shut down. They take the speaker. They gag his mouth further. They take stones out of the walls of the caves and they stone the speaker to death. And they turn to each other and they say, thank goodness we're safe now. Back to you.
Oh, wow, Kevin. You added a little dystopia there. That's
Aren't we still in dystopia?
yeah, that was trippy. That was trippy. Phew, like that. Dystopian sci-fi. Okay, the next genre I have here, or two, is a romantic comedy. So our character is a person with a very limited vocabulary. And the action is a deadline. So a romantic comedy with a person with a very limited vocabulary and a deadline. If that one, all right. Got these two. Okay. Nobody's looking at me. I love it. How about Andrew?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. Starting my stopwatch there. Jerry had a hard time speaking. He grew up that way and he was really very smart, but he just didn't learn words very well. His smarts came through in his ability to use his hands. He was a great mechanic. He was a cook, and he loved being physically in the world. Now, there was an opening for somebody to fix the nuclear power plant where he lived. And he actually could do all of the things, but he had to make a speech in order to apply for it. So it just took him a very long time to say his name and give his address and all of the things that most of us would take for granted. So his interviewer said, I'm actually green here, not yellow. And they said, you've got an hour to do this. So slowly he would tease out the words, my name is, I forget what he said, but let's say Eric. And then 5 minutes later, it would be green. And this is the way it went up until 59 minutes. And finally, he was so motivated that the rest came out in a big rush. my address is 49 Street, Elm Street, etc. And he just got it out in time and he got the job. And he was so motivated by that opportunity that he overcame his slowness of speech. Thank you very much. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
That was awesome, especially typing yourself. Thank you, Andrew. That was really cool. If I have time for one more, just one more. It's a thriller. It's a thriller. And the character is a blind person. And the action is guilt. Guilty. It's a thriller, a blind person who is guilty. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm gonna choose Lena.
There is this blind girl, and she was very frustrated because she didn't used to be blind. She wasn't born blind. She became blind by somebody throwing acid in her face. So she was on a revenge kick. She was trying to find the person who did this to her. She knew the name, the first name, Fred, but that was it. She found out every Fred in the village that she lived in, and she proceeded to slowly kill them all off. Now, you'd think she'd be guilty, but she wasn't, but the real Fred was. Fred had thrown acid in her face because she wouldn't date him. And he realized later that it was a mistake, because eventually he was the only Fred left in the town of 20,000. So they played a cat and mouse game. And what happened was she actually had a surgery and got the vision back in one of her eyes. She saw Fred, and instead of killing him, she just did the same thing he did to her. And she threw acid in his face. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Mistress.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you, everyone. You did great. I appreciate it. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mary. Man, I'm so glad you guys took those topics up. And Lena, I'm sure that story must have taken place in Fredericksburg, Maryland, right? Yes. Okay. What I need is like a whole sound effects panel up here that I can press a button and get my drum roll and cymbal crash and all that stuff. That's anyway. Let's keep the energy going. We're going to head into our evaluation section, and for that, we're going to greet and meet our 5-star general evaluator, Mr. Wayne Petito, who will steer us through this mysterious land of evaluations and reports. Wayne, good morning.
Good morning
Or afternoon
if you're
as
here. Well, the rumors of my quintuplet promotion are quite ahead of time. Anyway, I am your general evaluator today, and I observe to ensure that the meeting is conducted properly, which so far so good, and to lead the evaluation segment of the meeting and provide general evaluation of the entire meeting. I just generally evaluate everything, which is why I have that name. A prepared speech evaluators give constructive feedback, which promotes better listening on their part. So when you're the evaluator, you get a lot of value out of that. And it provides practice giving honest reactions to the speeches. Today, we had 2 excellent speakers, and I won't hold you any longer. We will start with Kevin Cunningham, who is going to evaluate Judith Van Praag. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, 5-star general. Judith, thanks for that really great speech, very heartwarming. I have a couple of things to say. So first of all, for everyone to understand, this is the second speech of 2 speeches that are trying to give Judith an opportunity to take in feedback and an evaluation. And Judith has stepped above and beyond in taking feedback. She went ahead and went into the evaluation contest. She kind of immersed herself deeply in the whole notion of feedback. So I just want to put that outer frame separate from even the speech. That's terrific. Second, so now as far as the speech is concerned, some of the things I really loved are that, first of all, you took one of the coaching, which is changing the title. That was great. Secondly, you didn't kind of end, you kind of came to a natural conclusion. You brought it back to us at the end. I think it was still a little time challenged, but you brought it back. That was good. As usual, your gestures are great. Your impact is great, loving, warm. You really came through with the feelings of the thing. As for things that I think you should consider or contemplate about this, one thing I realized when I saw the speech the first time, I said, I can't quite tell where I am. And I realized this time that it has to do with you're managing 4 or 5 different time places. You have you with your father watching movies. You have Kevin Costner at the Oscars, you watching that. You have Kevin Costner talking about his childhood, and then you link that back to your childhood. Then at the end, especially, you bring it back to here at Toastmasters, and you were sharing with us as a group. And I found that the challenge here is a structural challenge. How do you tell a story where you journey to different times, but make it all unified? And I think that some of the things you could do were transition statements in particular, where you would say things like, I noticed when you said watching the Oscars, I took note, and that was as much as you did. I felt like you could have marked it a little bit more clearly, like, so when I was watching the Oscars last month, like somehow bring it back and the framing is a little missing, if you know what I'm saying. I thought you did a great job at the end when you said, like here at Toastmasters, and you brought it back to us. So you actually did succeed in some of the transitions. But I'd look at the speech to see what you could do. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge. Everyone should notice this is a big challenge to tell a speech that has 5 different time spaces that you're occupying. But you did a great job within that constraint. And I just have some coaching about how you might even do it better. So in conclusion, as usual, you have tremendous skills of gestures, vocalisms, no ahs and ums. You're very always warm and compassionate. The speech touches us. You're telling a story. Something to work on is trying to manage multiple time frames in one speech. And especially, I just want to mark again that I thought it was terrific that in doing your evaluation thing, you actually jumped into evaluation as a whole enterprise. You evaluated other people. So that was great. I really appreciated that. So throw yourself into future ones and we'll see you again. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator, or Little Wayne, as I'll call you.
Oh, well, it's my world, so what am I going to say? Okay, so as general evaluator, our next evaluator will be Eclipse Nelson evaluating Renee. Go for it.
Thank you, General Evaluator. Renee, I love your work. I love the way you set up hooks galore. Your deep dive immediately. What's that about? I loved the building of your story, because when I'm listening to your story, I want to know I'm going somewhere, so you kept creating mystery. The jumping around was a little tricky, but that's your life. And when you got to the place and I ended up back in the desert, I started to feel the depth and the rest, and felt that in the middle, as we got to see the artwork, I got to see the story and how they were really tying in. The beginning was very impressive with who said what, and set up the story. But the power of the story was your art and what it meant to you and where it took us as we looked at it. And the scene of you with the background with these beautiful spikes wrapped around you is so touching and so powerful. that I wanted more. I wanted more about the one piece of art and how it really became the story. And I'd almost would suggest starting by saying there was one art that took this long to build. So we know that we're coming to your art, this piece that you shared with us to get somewhere. And it's so important because you're saying to people, art saves us. Art makes us alive. It's another, I think you might have used transformation, rebirth, but it gave us what we needed in the visual. And in the words, I wanted to see the words match, as it did in your last speech, the piece of art. And just even telling a little bit more about that piece might have pulled us in, and there's all kinds of ways you could do that speech by saying the different spokes and what, just get us going. But it's such an important speech, and there were so many good things in it. And I liked the mystery. The name dropping or whoever, that didn't matter at all to the listeners and to some of us. I am an artist, so that mattered. But some of us who weren't, it was your story that was important, that made it relatable. And it was powerful. And I want to see it even more powerful by telling us the story of that creation that saved you and said, this is who I am, that others saw. Thank you.
Why, thank you, Clips. I guess this is the portion where I give some general evaluation of our entire meeting and these evaluators.
Excuse me, Wayne.
I'm sorry, I
Just
knew
gonna
that.
we're going to get the reports from the functionaries.
Oh, we need to do that.
Yep.
Yes, let's do that. We have a TWAG team, and we have let's start with our timer, Mr. Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. The timing for today on the prepared speeches, Judith von Prague, time was 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Renee Brown, 7 minutes and 46 seconds. For the table topics, Wayne Petito, your time was 1 minute and 40 seconds. Kevin, 1 minute and 40 seconds. Myself was 1 minute and 47 seconds. And Lena, your time was 1 minute and 20 seconds. For the evaluations, Kevin, your evaluation was 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Eclipse, yours was 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Thank you very much. And back to you, Madam, Mr. General Evaluator.
And thank you, Andrew. So now we will go on to our, let's do the counter, which is, I know, Sandra, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. We were all very successful this morning. Just a few little ums, ahs, or repeats. Peter had one and one repeat of but. Andrew had one and one repeat of he. Kevin had 7 ahs, 1 Wayne had 4 ahs and 2 ums and 1 repeat of this. Mary had 2 ahs, 3 ums, and 2 so's. And Renee had 2 ahs. And that's it. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
And thank you, Sandra. Please take the rest of the day off. And I really mean that. So then we have let's do the grammarian next. And that is, who gave us the success of success?
Lena.
I see Lena beaming over there. I could just tell. Thank you, Lena. That's right.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Well, I didn't find much success in using success as a word, but very few people, I think, that did that. I know Renee did. I think Kevin did. I'm not sure who else, but I was also very caught up in the speeches. Oh, Judith and Sandra, see, I was caught up in writing and that stuff. So kind of a success. I didn't find any words or phrases that were off. What I did find was some abundance of magnificent words and phrases from this motley crew, and here are a few. Peter said, like a child running into the sunlight. That was very visual to me, and I loved it. I used to do that a lot as a child. With Judith's speech, I found the influencer thing, which is a newish thing for the last few years. It's not been around that long, but it was a theme in yours, and you said that your dad was the #1 influencer in my life, and I love that. And then you talked about the 2 influences, one your dad and one was Kevin Costner. And then you talked about Kevin Costner, an influencer who may change the world, or maybe it wasn't him, but you talked about an influencer who may change the world in big or small ways. Something else I like that you said about your dad when you're watching, I guess, adult material, some he would explain, some he left untouched. With Renee, there was an abundance of wonderful phrases and words. I love the title, Lost Yourself and Found Yourself, Make Art. Lose yourself and found yourself, make art. What the teacher said about giving bus tickets away to students, they didn't have enough chops for the program because they didn't have enough chops for the program. That was good. You tapped into the mystic aspects of nature. The world gets sharper. The winding roads merge here. And the visual snapshot of my writing. That was awesome. I love that. I can see that. And then we have clips. I like the power of the story was your art, what it meant to you and to us. That's all. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Lena. Now, if any of us is an expert at wowness, it is Eugene Mendelkorn. So let's have him give us a little wow report on how we did.
Okay. A wow in the wow factor category, I may have missed some things, but I think that the wow factor can be very subjective. It depends on what wows you. And it could be visual, it could be something, a word, a phrase, or a picture that you see in your mind. But I think I already had mentioned that Peter, when he started out talking about breakthrough and compared it to breakdown, and actually visually talked about not seeing the walls that are up there. And I thought that was a wow factor for me because it made me think about those relationships between those words and obstacles that you see as obstacles, which maybe you shouldn't. So I was very, very interested in that. That was a wow factor for me. And then he actually referred to Renee's backgrounds, which I thought were fantastic, how she did that. And I have to talk to her about that. And I want to know how it relates to her writing. I want to know how this art factor, and she can contact me. I really am interested in how she writes now, because I've been now introduced to her art. And sometimes your background is something that emphasizes who you are. So then the next wow factor was something that was very interesting because it was a impromptu presentation by Kevin, which was the speaker of Secrets, who was stoned at the end, and it dealt with censorship. And the story so intrigued me, I could visualize it. And I wonder if this is actually a story he has written in some form, because he came up with a name of the science fiction world and everything. And sometimes people have so many problems actually constructing these worlds. And he did it impromptu, but maybe he really has a story somewhere like this. And I would like to know that, if you would like to contact me and tell me if he really has a story like that, because I believed it. Then when he did his evaluation, he again wowed me, grabbed my attention, because suddenly his visual was obscured by his notes, which I thought was very interesting because it made me listen to his evaluation because I could not see them. But that, I mean, that was a mistake, a wild mistake, but wow, how did he do that? I was wondering, what did he do? And then I realized at the end, he had put his notes in front of the camera and was reading his evaluation. So those are my wow factors for today. Some of them are accidental, some visual, and some in the formation of a phrase or a sentence or a description. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Evaluator. General evaluator.
That's 4-star general evaluator, by the way. Okay, well, I'll make sure that doesn't happen here. I have made a note here that says, sometimes serendipity guides individuals and collectivity like it did today. The evaluators got lined up with the speakers so well that we couldn't have consciously made that good a pairing. Once upon a time in the world, there was a creator that got created, and now we know that. That was how Judith got created. And Kevin Cunningham is now a nationally renowned, successful evaluator who highlights the essence of our talents, provides constructive ways to improve our effectiveness, and can challenge even the best speakers to find involvement and improvement. And Judith Sophia von Prague warrants just such an expertise, as she so consistently has the ability to capture us and bring us along willingly to her conclusions and her stories. Well, Kevin's feedback was not just technically excellent, as he always is, but always very insightful and constructive and extremely helpful, especially in dealing with something as difficult as the 5-part harmony that Sophia put together. And then we have another amazing pairing with Eclipse Nelson, who frames her evaluation in love. She took Renee's use of her lost and found world, and who became a sculptor. And Eclipse Nelson is unique in her as an evaluator, because she's able to find levels of and values in us that we never even knew about ourselves. Her ability to put voice to the unseen and the very spiritual breakthroughs of our lives it gives us great depth and perspective, and especially in a deep dive speech like Renee's. To be a creator and to talk about creating is something that we do here, and it's bound to give us no limit of dimensions, like a sculpture that speaks to you, literally. So when we have these many levels of success, I think we're on the right path, and we're making breakthrough after breakthrough, individually and collectively. Now, in general, the things we can improve. Well, we've improved on so many things. We have to improve on some of our technical things. We've improved on our role, signing up for our roles and meetings and so forth. We could still work on that. But I think what we need to do is on an incoming, to make an incoming checklist for our new people. because there's so many little things, so many bases to touch, and we need to make that effective. So I will volunteer to put together a list of all the things that a new person can use and how to use them, and the technicalities and who to speak to for what and so forth. Because if we just have that we can send out to every new person when they come in, they can choose their pathways and do all those things. And a lot of us sort of hit and missed a lot of that for quite a while. So without any objections, I volunteer to write the checklist up, and I'll send it to our president or our VP of education, and for review and implementation. Now, on the positive side, what can I say? Week after week, we pack more enjoyment, information, and learning experiences and extremely valuable evaluations into 90 minutes, which is coincidentally the target for a really good full-length feature movie. In fact, I've downloaded all these movies, and I enjoy watching them now and then. And there's no end to how much you can learn from them. We've got to be the most exciting Toastmasters club there is, because we have the advantage of having creative writers selected from those who are wise enough to sign up for Screenwriting U in the first place, and then have the real value in doing this. And it shows in our speakers, it shows in our success in our contest winners, and this is how we do it. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Wayne, for that excellent summation of our meeting today. I commend you on your volunteerism and look forward to looking at that list. That certainly would be very helpful. I would like to only say at this point that the meeting, as Wayne intimated, this meeting is more than a Toastmasters meeting. I feel in some ways it's a meeting of the minds, and especially if and everyone here has been coming week after week for the most part for some of us 2 years or so. I think we started just about 2 years ago, didn't we, in May? So anyway, I mean, we are like group mind, or whatever that phrase is, group, that we kind of have a collective identity, and perhaps the name of the club says it all. We are SuccessMasters. And I want to thank each and every one of you for spending part of your day here, and I'm honored to have been your Toastmaster today. I would now like to return the meeting to our charming presiding officer, Ms. Lena Posset. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Big hand for Peter, our Toastmaster extraordinaire here. All right, there's one person who's not spoken yet, so let's give him the floor, the camera. Mr. Kearney, what news do you have? What do you want to say? What are you up to?
I did drop the link for the contest and the conference into the chat room. So if you guys want to go participate and see our speakers win, the link is there. And Lena, whether Wayne realized it or not, he just volunteered to be in charge of your mentorship program. So put him to work. It's time. Sorry, Wayne. This is what happens when you grow and become an expert at something.
I accept the nomination with humility and fear.
Don't worry about it, Wayne.
I'm not worried about that. I'm afraid of Lena.
My constant mantra is you're not in this alone.
As long as she doesn't release Clueless on me, I'll be all right.
I will teach Lena how to use the whip and snap it properly.
Oh, I know how to use that.
It's not a problem.
Okay. I would like to see the mentorship program get off to a start. So Wayne was mentioning about how when new people come in and we want to have a checklist and stuff like that, we should also probably assign an experienced person to the new person to walk them through all the different pieces and to make sure that they're not left alone and they're not struggling.
I actually done that. I've walked through the website.
I realize that you do it, but you want to get a mentorship program going, and this will involve other people, and those other people will then learn how to develop their mentoring skills by becoming a mentor for some of the newer people that are joining the club, rather than having you do it all the time. Then you become a mentor expert and no one else knows anything, right? So spread the wealth and let other people learn.
We do that actually. I ask people if they want a mentor, and a lot of people here right now have been mentoring and being mentee. But I agree with you. We should have a mentorship program, and Wayne can be absolutely in charge of it.
Awesome. Way to
Even
go,
though
Wayne.
I'm technically Toastmaster wise not qualified to be a mentor yet. I think you have to finish at least one pathway or two or something. And
No, you have to get through level 2 of one pathway, and then there will be a mentorship pathway that pops up in your tools box, and so you go take that mentorship pathway.
And that's mandatory now.
It is for people who want to run a mentorship program. So yes, you're going to have to do it.
Okay. Gladly, of course.
And don't forget, we want to deal with the officers. So the officers need to be voted on in May so that the names can be uploaded to TI in June and they can attend the June-July officers training. So we want to get that done sometime this month, if it has.
Yes. We talked to Hal about it, and he has a list of who we're missing, and so what's up for grabs. So I'm going to talk to him about that, and then we'll see who wants to join us as officers.
And we are currently in the Beat the Clock membership drive from Toastmasters International that runs from May 1st to June 30th, where each club tries to get 5 new additional members. So if we go out there and get 5 new additional members, Wayne has some people to work with.
We need to put together a pitch meeting. So Peter is part of that, and with Hal, and so Peter needs to be there though.
Sure.
We need to set up a pitch or open house.
Sure, however the club decides that they want to do it. But those are the things that I had in mind. Give it back over to you, Lena.
Okay, what we're doing now, we're before we finish today, we're going to sign up for roles for next week. So I want to see everybody who didn't say the word success take all the big roles. Peter, what do you want to do?
I would like to give a speech.
Okay, first speaker. Kevin?
Evaluator. I also wanted to make a comment at some point, but you're gathering the meeting. So.
Okay. Who else? Who else? Mary, what do you want to do? I'm just going to call on you. It's easier than sit here and wait.
I'll go for all counter and just be aware that I may have something going on next week, but I'm not sure yet.
Okay. How about Andrew?
A grammarian, please.
Well, Kevin and Peter, did I hear them right? I'm sorry to interrupt. Kevin and Peter said they're going to do something, right?
Yeah, they're going to speak and evaluate. Since they're competing next week, it's a perfect thing to do, right?
So how can they be at both places at once?
Huh?
Well, Jim, the contest is later in the day. It starts at like 3:30 p.m. Pacific time.
Oh, they made it separate?
Yeah.
They're not having the contest at the conference?
They are, but at 6:30 Eastern time.
It's just at the end of the day, so.
Okay.
I'm actually on that. I'm also wondering if Kevin really wants to evaluate Peter, since you've heard it so many times. You might want to evaluate, if we get more speakers, somebody that you haven't heard, a speech you haven't heard. I don't know. But we can deal with that later. Anybody else? So Andrew, how about Eclipse?
I'll be a wow.
Wow. And Sandra?
You got Renee down there.
Renee is holding her hands. Renee, what do you want to do?
I'll do table topics.
Okay, great. Sandra?
I can do what you need. I could be GE or Toastmaster, whichever you want.
How
Or
about
no,
you?
not Toastmaster, but I can just be GE because I just looked at my schedule. Okay.
G. Okay, Judith?
Toastmaster.
Great. Wayne?
I think we need another speaker.
You do? You can
I'll do
speak.
that.
How about Eugene? Do you want to evaluate him?
Well,
That's it.
my situation is very interesting. I next week I'm leaving for the Cannes Film Festival. So I don't even
Wow.
know if I will be available for the meeting. But there is something I would like to talk about after we go through this. Also, I know that I think Kevin said he had something he wanted to talk about. So I do too.
You can sign up for anything is what you're saying.
I don't want to sign up because I don't know even if I will have Wi-Fi or not, or if I'll be in the plane when the meeting takes place.
Are you coming next week? Do you want to do evaluation?
Me? I won't be here. I have 3 other meetings to be.
I can't barely hear you.
I said, I won't be here. I have 3 other meetings to be.
Okay. Well, you don't need a fourth. Okay. So either I jumped in or I'll jump into one of them. Leave it open for right now. And that's it. So that's done. And Kevin was first with something he wanted to talk about.
I just thought it was an interesting story. I want to give credit where credit is due. So Eugene raised several points. First of all, we were listening to Renee's speech, and I evaluated it as well, just for practice. But I also thought, I want to see, I've read her scripts, and I want to know how it connects, how this writing and art connect. So when I was doing my improvisation for table topics, I had in my mind Renee's script. So the setting of this cave that I imagined came from her imagination. I just want to make sure that that's clear, that this is the power of influence. The story, I constructed the story inside of that space, and on my own. But I was present to her art when I created that story for you. So I didn't want to be fully credited for it. I wanted to give her some credit for it. So thank you.
Is what we do.
You also had a very cool that I didn't mention, something about a cave of the darkling or something. I had it down here somewhere, but I have so many. But yeah, I like that too. That was a cool phrase. Okay, Eugene.
Yeah, I'm centered around making movies. Okay, that's my life. And with the 12 people here today, and with our word of the day being success, which is the beginning of SuccessMasters, okay, I'm thinking, why don't the 12 of us together here make a movie about SuccessMasters? The title will be SuccessMasters. Make that movie together, and then our consultant will be Jim Kearney, because if we're going to make a movie that advertises, in a way, Toastmasters, of course, we need a Toastmaster expert to make sure that we're doing everything properly. Okay? And we can write this, we can produce it, we can do the whole thing as a team. And at the same time, I will be learning, we will all be learning more about Toastmasters, because we will have to delve into that reality to make the film real. Okay? So think about this, because you are the 12th, and this will be a surprise for Hab. It will be a shocker like that when we wore the hats and the costumes and stuff, looking like him. Because he invented the SuccessMasters Toastmasters group, let's make a SuccessMasters movie.
Right, so if you're gonna try to do that, just remember that this is being recorded, so he's gonna hear all this stuff.
Yeah, it won't be a secret when you watch it.
I
Yeah.
think you got to have Hal be a part of the film. So
Yes.
Of
you-
course,
you-
of course, he has to
If he
be.
wants to.
let me
Yeah.
give you-
He can be a writer and a producer too.
he can have a cameo.
Okay. And if you want to know how to do something like this, that's how I made my first movie. I invited people into my living room in Hollywood. 5 people showed up, and the 6 of us wrote a movie together and made that movie. And 18 months later, it was screened during the Cannes Film Festival in France. So this is something that I know how to do. So let's do it together.
So how long of a movie are you trying to create?
Huh? What was
How
that?
long of a movie, time-wise?
Time-wise, I would like to keep it around 90 minutes. I don't like to make something that's too long. But yeah, about 90 minutes. Yeah.
All right, so I'll give you the first assignment. So you have something to work with. If everybody can do a 1-minute self video about why you joined SuccessMasters or what you got out of SuccessMasters.
Okay.
1 minute.
Great.
Don't-
1 minute.
Don't make it
video.
that bad, right? And then, of course, Eugene, you can use that however you want, right?
Okay. Well, we have to
Murder
start
mystery.
somewhere.
So,
Thriller.
like next year, we'll all be going to Cannes, right?
Well, how many
Yeah.
of you been to Cannes? How many of you been
I
there?
never have, but I always wanted to.
Okay. Okay, I've been to Cannes 33. Well, this will be my 33rd trip. Okay.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, and next year is 34. All right. Anything else? Anybody?
Awesome. Are we done now then? Anybody else? Anything? No? Go 4th or go 7th, I guess. Go 7th and have an awesome day and weekend and lovely speeches. I just love this. I love these Saturday mornings. Have a great day, everybody.
Never
Mother's
disappoint me.
Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Bye.